our next session is the business of a dream. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome to the stage Ruth Moto and Simonza Muyangana. Woo! Okay, so I'm going to ask first, Simonza is the first name, right? Would you prefer Mr. Simonza, Sir Simonza, Madam Simonza, Honorable Simonza? Is that on? Let me switch it on.
Hello. All right. Simonza's fine.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So, Simonza, you are the co-founder of Bongo Hive. So for most of us, Bongo Hive has always been about technology, right? So we want to find out, but there's more to Bongo Hive, there's innovation, right? So can you please explain to us what it means to be doing the business of innovation? What is it you really do? It's like tech, just give us like give me some understanding.
All right, great. So what we do at Bongo Hive is we're themed around three things: technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Innovation being value that you can add towards society or towards customers, but still create value for the company at the same time. So then entrepreneurship finally ties that all up together in that, making that viable. If we were to sum it up in a sentence, we say, if we sum it up into what's our vision, why do we live, what's our culture based on and everything, we have a sentence that helps us to define that. We say, we work with great minds to create viable solutions that add value to the world. And the great minds being entrepreneurs, thinkers, experts, investors. Those are the people that we consider the great minds. Yes.
Okay, this is very specific. Now, I want to find out, how did you find yourself in this particular business? How did you become an innovator and then put it all together and call it Bongo Hive and come and start helping people in that way?
All right, great. So it's the first time I've actually ever been called an innovator. So, if you had asked me, I would have said, no, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
But then, so...
What would you call yourself, though?
I struggle with that. So,
If you don't name yourself, we'll name you. That's the word, right?
but the Bongo Hive story is, we started off in 2011. And where we started off from was, my business partner, Lukonga, used to work for an organization that had employed interns to set up computers. And these computers were being distributed towards colleges of education. So Nkrumah, Malcolm Moffat, and others around the country. And in the process of that, Lukonga's of the three of us as co-founders, I think Lukonga's the one, if you were to put a passion for people in degrees, Lukonga has the highest. He's the more people person of the three of us. So he had a passion for the young people that he was working with and started having the conversation around the laughing there. You're absolutely right. I'm the least, if you call me. Three. So
we love you still.
So he had a passion for just having conversations with them around, okay, great, what's your future, what are you trying to do? So similar to the conversation we're having here. And what are you planning to do? What are your goals in life? And so forth and so on. And what was interesting was that there was no clarity around what they wanted to do. So, I mean, I'm simplifying it, but then what comes is we're having a conversation. I was doing something else. Slomesi was completely doing something else as well. And we had a conversation around, how do we help these young people? How do we get... Android was becoming a thing. There were no Android developers in Zambia at the time. And we said, oh, great, how do we help them? So we started having conversations started hosting meetups in the Ministry of Education. And the Ministry of Education had no idea we were starting Bongo Hive in their building. And we were holding meetups every Saturday for 3 hours, so let's say 9 to 12. Not every Saturday, 2 times a month, so on a Saturday, would meet just to, one day we'd teach them networking. The next Saturday we started teaching them Ruby on Rails. The next thing we were teaching them whatnot. And we did this for a set of months, volunteering, really, just volunteering. We had no, We had an idea of what we want to do, but we didn't know how to get there yet. So we just said, okay, great, let's share time and let's spend time with these guys. So then what happened was Lukonga goes off to Kenya to visit the iHub, because now we had a picture of like, this is what we want to do. So Lukonga went off to the iHub, which is a similar place in Kenya. And he goes and says, let me see what it looks like and see if we can do the same thing in Zambia. So he visits it, he's taking a ground, he meets the founder of the iHub, they're having a conversation, the guys are like, great, you get started and any advice you need, we'll be happy to give it to you. And he meets another guy, a Canadian guy, who then says, what do you need to learn? We said, we need our guys to learn how to develop Android apps. And the guy goes, if you can pay for my flight and pay for my accommodation, I'll come over and I'll teach the guys for free. So we managed to raise the money, and all of these are amazing stories. I'm like all the stories are things that are beyond us. In short, I would say the story of Bongo Hive for us is also a miracle. I'm like, there are instances where lady walks in, and I'm not joking, lady walks in, so how do we pay for this Canadian guy, for example? Lady walks in, we're helping guys learn how to do stuff, and she says, she's been introduced to what we're doing, she's amazed, and she ends up crying. She's like, I can't believe Zambians are doing this to help other Zambians. And she looks up, starts writing, and hands us a check for $20,000. Just like that. No asking, no whatnot. She just writes of like, whatever you need, here's $20,000 for you to do what you want to do. So we take that $20,000 and pay for this guy to come in from Canada, pay for his accommodation, pay for him to come in and stay. We pay for him to stay in a hotel, show him the hotel. We come back, he starts training. We go back, he books himself out of the hotel and books himself into another lodge close to where we're training, into a government lodge. So from a hotel, he downgrades himself into a lodge and says, I didn't come here for your money, I came here to teach. So that also made an imprint on us. That also then they made an imprint on us. They're like, if we've got people who are giving to us, then we give back to society. So those are part of the values, those are part of the systems that get into that. But then shooting over time is, we start off with technology, and that's the background to us. So teach people how to develop Android apps. They start doing that. We started hosting meetups. How do we get entrepreneurs to start hanging out? How do we get creatives to start hanging out? And so our thesis was creatives, people in technology, people who understand business. If we can get them start hanging out together, we hope they can start to create companies. So we start getting guys from around the world start asking like, hey, I'll be in Lusaka, can I come and hang out at Bongo Hive? And we're like, yeah, sure. They come out, what do you want? I'll come and give a talk. They'll come and host talks. They'll come and, I can honestly say, by to date, I think people at Bongo Hive, and Ruth can back me up if I'm wrong here, have probably met more dollar millionaires than anybody can claim. People who just come over and say, hi, I just want to come out and hang out at Bongo Hive. I'm coming in for a week, I want to talk to entrepreneurs. And that's all I want to do. I want to mentor them, I want to talk to them, and I'll fly out. I'm paying for my own costs, I'll spend time at Bongo Hive, and that's all I'm going to do. And these are real dollar millionaires that you know them by name, you check them on the internet, and you're like, yeah, that guy sold, I mean, like, there's some guys who are like, I'm coming over, and you check like, oh, he sold a company for $200 million like 6 months ago. And you're like, oh, wow. So it's getting that inspiration and talking to such type of people. Then we say, the next question then becomes, how do we help people? They start asking us. So when we say we look for problems, is people start asking, okay, I know how to run an app, I know how to do this, but how do I start a business? So 3 years ago, we then started a set of programs. And some of those programs were Discover, that helps people think through an idea. So you have an idea for business. How do you actually turn that business to an idea? So before you turn it to an idea, we ask ourselves the question, is there a market for the idea? How are you actually going to deliver it? How big is that market? Is the market worth getting into? And stuff like that. So that's a 2-week boot camp. No, it used to be 3. So this year it's now 2 weeks. So it used to be a 3-week boot camp. We've now cut it short to like 2 weeks. So it's now a 2-week boot camp that helps you to validate your idea. And if you lose your idea during the 2 weeks, for us that's a success. Then you're not wasting money running an idea that's never going to make money. So that's the first thing we say. Failure is a success, as long as you can learn from the failure. As the quicker you can fail and learn from the failure, that's a success. So we're like, okay, great, we've validated your idea, and if you change your idea, that's normal. Then we have a 3-month program called Launch. So during that 3 months is when now we start building your business. So we've validated the idea, how do you grow out? How do you get your customers? And these are tough conversations. These are, I'm excited, I want to do this, stuff and so on, and we're like, okay, great, you can't do that. Why? Because you don't have a market, your numbers don't make sense, you know, and people hate us. I mean, midway through it, everybody hates you. By the end of launch, hopefully some of them still love you, but that's not why we're in business. We're in business to build companies. And we have to give you the tough medicine sometimes. We have to have the conversation. Then our third program is called Thrive in now, which we do investor readiness and introduce people to investors, help you through the process of working with investors and so on and so stuff. And so attached to that is Bongo Hive is 3 units. It's the fund that we're setting up to invest in companies. We're now fundraising. It's a consult division that helps us to build. So we still do technology. We're mad about technology. So we build everything from apps to whatnot. We do innovation consultancy. We do a number of things for corporates. Then it's the venture builder that helps us to build companies. Yeah.
Okay. One of the things actually, it's one thing that I've noticed, one kingdom principle that has been running through the course of your story from the beginning. You were helping people by setting up certain things in the schools, right? Followed by helping the young people you were working with, now helping creatives get together, and now you've actually broadened from tech into other industries, right? I think that's one kingdom principle that some people do not really, creatives particularly, are very selfish with. Give and it shall be given to you, right? The more you give, the more people come forward and help you, whether it's for free or whether they give you money or they give you resources. The more that you give is the more that the people actually help you, right? So I think we meet a lot. I think we meet a lot of creatives who are just like, oh, my idea will be stolen, oh, my idea this, my idea. I think the more you just give, right? So now, you've been working tech, and then there's this strange connection. Ruth Moto, she's a designer, clothing designer. It seems like it wouldn't work together with the tech world. But Ruth, let us know, how did you meet with this person? And he looks like he's very critical. Like, how do you, like he's so particular, you know, even just the way he speaks.
Be nice.
Right?
Simuza is not your friend. That's the truth. Like, if you're going for someone, if you're looking for someone to rub your back and tell you it's okay, you'll be fine, don't worry, Simuza is not the person. You go to Simuza and then you tell him these are my numbers and he says you are playing. Why? Like, we agreed on growth. You did this, why aren't you making the numbers? You're not advertising, why aren't you advertising? Why are you hiring a lot of people? Why are your expenses high? And usually those are the conversations that we have. And I think now we are friends because I did launch in 2017. January 2017, that's when I did launch. Yeah.
Business?
Yes.
Okay, now how did you meet Simonza? That's one thing I would like to know.
Okay, so Simonza mentioned something quite important, that you need to have a picture of where you want to go. So yesterday I shared how I left my job and then started sewing. So I always used to get frustrated with tailors. It's a Zambian problem. So you go to a tailor, things don't work out right and everything. And then I always used to say, like, you know, I'll start making my own clothes. And for the longest time, all my friends would tell you, I always used to say, I'll buy myself a machine, and I never did. So 2014, my birthday, my husband got me a machine from Game. I think it was like 900 kwacha. Then he's like, please stop bothering us that you're going to get a machine. Here's a machine. And I said, okay, so how do I learn? And then it came with a manual and it had a CD, so I put it in my laptop. And literally, I started teaching myself how to sew. I was with Leanne. Leanne comes to this church. And she was like, okay, let's do it now. So I got a cloth. I taught myself how to thread a machine. And then I put a cloth and we had a perfect stitch. My business is called My Perfect Stitch. So after that, I was saying, okay, I don't have a job. I have 2 children. I I've been used to doing things with my hands. So like sitting is just, it doesn't fully work out. So I would post. Today I taught myself how to make a skirt. And I'd go to YouTube and I'm like, how do you make a skirt? And then I'd cut. And one day, I was cutting a skirt and my aunt came home and she says, you're doing it all wrong. This is like bad. And I said, but I watched from YouTube. And it's like, I have a friend who knows how to sew and she teaches. So you're on maternity leave, go and learn. Like, don't just sit at home. So I went and then she taught us how to do clothes, how to draw patterns, how to make bags. So now I'm in this space, I have no job, I sort of have an idea how to sew, and I start asking myself, should I go look for a job or should I stay at home? So I started applying for jobs. And this is when I have my relatives telling me, how can you leave a government job? So you start feeling like, maybe I made a mistake, maybe I did this. And then I'm having a lot of conversations with God, and things are just sort of working out. So I'm like, okay, God, come, let's sit down. If you want me to run this business, you need to give me a machine, a proper one, because this one breaks needles. So he's like, okay, do a post on Facebook. So I went to a sewing group. I joined like a lot of sewing groups. And I said, I'm looking for a machine that will help me make bags, is not going to break my needles, and is under $200. And this woman from Texas responds and she says, you need a vintage machine, 1964. And then I'm like, guys, where am I going to find a 1964 in Zambia? And she's like, no, like if you go to pawn shops, like you can exchange or you find like old machines. So I'm like, we don't have those type of shops in Zambia. Then she went to my Facebook. My Facebook has open settings. So she went to my Facebook and she stalked me. Then she sent me an inbox and she says, I went to your Facebook, I saw how you love God, how you love your family, how you love your husband, and I'm so convinced that God told me to send you a machine. So I said, okay, God, like, I'm not sure that conversation that we had was like this, but okay. So I said, oh, that would be very nice, Gina. Thank you so much. And then you're like, it's Facebook, she's in Texas. Like, this is not going to work. And like every week, she was giving me updates, every single week. And 3 months later, I had the machine in my house. So I said, okay, God, I have the machine, but if you still want me to do this business, you have to like align certain things. But the thing is that I had already started creating a story. So like I was telling people I learned how to do this, I shared with people about Gina and everything. So people were watching and they were seeing that I was being consistent. But then I asked myself if this is what I want to do, like small. And then I said, if I'm going to do this properly, then it has to be my proper job. And if it's going to be my proper job, it means that I have to properly know how to run a business. So I started asking my friends around. And someone said, go to Bongo Hive and ask them. So I said, okay. So I walked in, and then I met Katole, and she explained like all the programs. And I was like, okay. Then they advertised, and then I saw launch. And I said, I didn't do Discover, but I'll still apply in launch. So I applied, and then, okay, they asked like really, really hard questions. So it's like, what is your value proposition? I'm like, what is value proposition? And I was just typing in things, and then it's like, what problem are you solving? I'm like, guys, what problem am I solving? And they asked like all those questions. Then I got a call, and George was like, no, you can come in, and then we'll do an interview with you. And I told Simunza, I said, I want to create stores. Like, I want to have as many stores in the country, across Africa, and in the world. I want to be able to create a part of, like, I'm in love with Chitenge, and I said, I want the world to be able to see my heritage, my culture, so I want people to be able to walk into a store, they will walk into Zara, into H&M, and then you can buy a Chitenge dress, you can buy a Chitenge top and everything. And from there, conversations were like, okay, so let's see how this can grow. And I was like, I told myself that if I'm not going to get a job, I'm going to create a job, and it's going to be serious business. And that's how I met Simunza, and we've been together since then.
Awesome. And you make it sound like it's so long ago. That's like 2017 up to now. That's a big success up to where you are today. So now, this all for both of you sounds like a Cinderella story. Like, wow. Oh, wow. Wow. But even Cinderella lost a shoe, right? So I want to know, what is that lose a shoe moment for both of you? Maybe Simosa, you can start. What is that moment that you felt like, oh my God, am I supposed to be here? Maybe I made a big mistake. I wasted so much time. What is that moment and how did you overcome it, or are you overcoming it?
All right. So in the journey to solving what we're trying to do, so remember, I think yesterday we talked about find a big problem to solve, right? Now, in solving big problems, I'm not saying go and boil the ocean. So it's, when, when we say that, now I have to be very critical here, and I asked for permission from Pastor Mpangwe, because I'm like, there are two versions of me you can get. You can get a nice version, which Ruth knows doesn't actually exist, or you can get an honest version. So the nice one is where I'm polite to you, but I'm not telling you the truth. And I'm upfront about that. Like, if you want to hear me say motivational stuff and to please you, I don't like doing it, but I'll do it because you're paying me. If you want to get the truth, I'll be honest with you. I want no holds barred. And my friends know that. I mean, even the conversations I've had with some of the people here, like, it's no holds barred. So, Zambians, we love to boil oceans.
Explain.
So, when I say what problem am I solving, and this is typical, and it comes from a nice place. It comes from a very, very good place as Zambians. We're very generous, and that's where it comes from. So I'll ask you, and then you'll say something like, there are poor children in Zambia, and I want to help them, and I want to save all of them, and so on and so on. I'm like, great, that's a great thing to do. I totally buy into what you're trying to do. How do you want to do that? No, but that's the business I want to do. Like, no, what's the product you're going to sell that will make you create money that will help you do that? Because then go and start an NGO, but even when you start an NGO, where are you going to get the money to be able to do that? So now when I say solve problems, is find frictions that people have in their lives that they're willing to pay you for. So, boom, very simple problem. How do we help the majority of the people in Africa or Zambia to have a better life by having soap or washing powder that they can afford? That's all the value proposition there is. Create a washing powder that people can afford, sell it mass market, and that's where the real market is, not middle market. The moment you come to me with like, hi, I'm looking for something that is trendy, that will sell to young trendy people who are aged 25, actually no, this is the one I like to laugh at, 18 to 20, because they're young and they're hip. I'm like, they're broke, they have no money, and they only live in Lusaka. I'm not interested in that problem. You're not coming into Bongo Hive. I have no interest in that problem. There's no market there. None. They have no money. There's not a good size there, or the number of people that you're trying to solve the problem for. So we are running away from real problems. If you make the lives of the people, the majority of Zambia who live under the poverty line, if you make their lives better, and you're able to make a margin of 1 kwacha to 2 kwacha to 10 kwacha to 50 kwacha as profits, you're the richest guy in this country. Those are the problems that I look for. And those are the people that I want to support build businesses going towards the future. Easy, look at Zona. Look at mobile money. Transfer across the country. Simple problem, solved. Transfer between people who are living in an urban area towards people who are living in a rural area. Margins, very low. ShopRite, 5 kwacha per transfer. How many people are doing that? And they're killing it. So when we've had moments with problems are when things start to go wrong. So 2015 was a nightmare for us. We set up co-working. We want to support entrepreneurs. We set up co-working. We're about to get started. And we sign up our first client, and then load shedding happens. 3 times a week for at least 6 hours. You cannot run a business. That was our write-off year for us. And we're still supposed to pay salaries in that year. There are businesses that I know, when we say business is tough, they're businesses, good business people, intelligent people that I know, businesses that died in the last 3 years because of 2015. The load shedding that happened in 2015. I know a guy that I met who has a good product that is in stores that you all use. He found himself in 1 year, 1 million kwacha in debt because of 2015. Because there was no electricity.
Wow.
So it's when decisions are made that start to affect entrepreneurs that make us cry, that affect us, and I know the pain of going through that. Yes.
So it's more of the leadership on the
Well,
resources.
I'm not pointing at anyone.
Resources. I thought we're getting the honest Monza here.
Well, I'm in church. I have to be nice.
Who said you can't be honest in church? Pastor. Okay. Ruth, you launched in 2017, but I'm sure you also had some troubles even before then or even after you launched. What was your major lost the Cinderella shoe moment for you in your business?
Okay, there are a lot.
There are a lot. What you say? Not a lot, maybe just one.
No, running a business is hard. It's very hard. Running a business as a married woman with children is a plus hard. And running a business, if you've never run a business before, is a plus hard. Because you become your own teacher, and you make mistakes, and you are the boss, so you have no boss to go to, so you have to pick up the pieces. When I started launch, I think I was making, 2,000 kwacha? 2,000, 3,000 kwacha a month. I had one tailor. We were working from my house at the veranda. I finished launch March. My second son was, I think, like 5 months. And I realized that, so how launch works is that they give you homework that you have to go and do outside. So you have to go and start asking people for feedback. You have to ask them, like, what do you like about my product? Do you like my product? And everything. So as I was getting feedback, I was getting more customers. And then I realized that I only knew how to make one type of dress. And I'm limited in my sewing capacities. Steve yesterday was talking about you have to know what your strengths and your weaknesses are. A lot of people call me a designer. I'm not a designer. I'm a business girl. And like I've always known that. I'm a business girl. I'm not a designer. So if I'm going to find something to do, like I have to grow my business IQ, if I can call it like that. So I already know that I run 2 entities under one name. I run My Perfect Stitch and I run My Perfect Stitch Home. It means that I know I have to find a very great designer who's going to be doing, because me, I'm like, am I making money? Am I not making money? Why aren't I making money? That is me, and that is what I grow. So I learned that, okay, I'm only able to make one dress, but I have people who are coming to ask for more things. And my tailor is not the best, so I fired my tailor, and I had no tailor, and I had more clients. So I was going, like in the day, I'm trying to sell my business. At 18 hours, I'm going to do lunch. I'm coming back out at 20 hours. And then at 20 hours, I have a chitenge that I'm going to sit and start cutting and start sewing. And then I have a 5-month-old baby and a husband who wants to be hugged and told you love him. And then now it's very hard to find really good tailors. So I had to go through that process. April, I made 300 kwacha. Like, that's how much money I made. And it was, am I going to do this or not? And I told myself, like, I've given myself like 3 weeks. After 3 weeks, if I do not find a tailor, I'm stopping. Like, I'll go look for a job. And I remember, like, everywhere I go, I'll be in Challenge Market, I'll be like, Maswako ba tailor? I'll be like, everywhere, it was just conversation of, do you know a tailor? Can I find a tailor? Who is the tailor? I found this really good tailor. He came home. He made me like a really nice dress, and we had just gotten a contract with Zambezi Magic for a certain program, and we're supposed to be dressing them. And I found this guy, and I was like, heaven has smiled on me. He came, he worked one day, the next day he had diarrhea, and he's had diarrhea since then. So literally, he hasn't come back. And I said, okay. And then, like Zambezi Magic is calling you when our dress is ready, and then you are thinking, how am I going to sort this out? But the day after my deadline, someone called me and said, oh, I'm a tailor, but I have a friend, so can I bring him? So I said, okay, come. And by then I had given up. They came, and then we started growing. At end of 2017, I think we made like 25,000, and that was a plus. The next month were like 3,000, 4,000, and everything. And then I was like, okay, if I make it 20,000, if I rent a house for 4,000, and my tailors are getting 1.5 each, so that's 3,000. It means that I'm on 7,000, and maybe electricity will be like 200 kwacha. And then so we're ready to rent a place. So we went out and we started renting a place. Then you discover that you have landlords and you have problems. You don't know how a contract looks like. And we agreed on everything. The house was dilapidated. We cleaned it out. We didn't sign that, okay, we're going to clean out your house and everything. And we had agreed that for the next 2 years, the rent would not be increased because we've cleaned out your space, but it wasn't in our lease agreement. So second month, the man sees that there's cars that come. He comes and he says, first of all, we didn't agree on this 2 years nonsense. And second of all, your rent doesn't cover the water. And that's the time in Lusaka, I think we had a cholera outbreak. And then he decided to shut down water on us. So 2 weeks we didn't have water. I had people coming through, we had nothing. And I'm like, okay. So we moved out into another place, and I figured God is going to come through. And God was quiet for a very long season. And we failed to meet our rent. I sat with my husband and we said, let's look out for money. We tried to get a loan, it didn't work out. We went to the Chinese, I gave them my car, and I said, I have rent, I have salaries that I haven't paid, and it's like the 17th. And I took a first trip to Dubai because I was like, I need to learn how to do furniture making. So everyone on social media is seeing me that I'm interning for a day at a Dubai firm, but then they don't know that I have 5 days in Dubai and I have no money. And my husband at home has no money, and people have left, I haven't paid them. And then this time I'm even scared to talk to Simunza because Simunza is going to be like, did you count your costs properly? And literally, I think April, May, June, 2018 was my toughest. Because like I literally had no money, I was owing, I had no car. And in Lusaka, you need to have a car if you're going to run a business. And I was just like at a space, like I don't know what to do. And then we got out the car, I think for a month, we're supposed to pay back. They gave me like 16,000 or 17,000, and the money wasn't coming in. And literally I told God again, I said, this is my deadline. I'm stopping after I pay back all my debt. I'm not coming back to here. And just the day before my deadline, someone came and like we had a deal that was like, I think like 45 or 55,000 kwacha. And we managed to pay out like all our debt, get back my car and everything. But then, and bigger problems come. So now I had 12 people, so plus myself we're 13. But then like as we're going, so it's bigger problems every single day, and you have to find a way of how do you work out this. And you have to know your numbers because your numbers are telling you exactly what it is. Sometimes you have a lot of people who are coming in, but then you're realizing I'm selling a dress for 250. I'm actually giving these people a dress for free, plus extra money on top. Like we don't see it. Because like, oh, I'm selling you this dress because Htenge is this amount. But then you have to calculate like all this costs because you realize you're just handing out stuff for free. So it's been a journey and a half, but we're still there.
And still there. Now, before I get into the next questions, we'll be going into everybody out here who has questions. Do we have any questions? Okay. I'll start with the gentleman in blue. Media, can we give them a mic or get their questions? Do we have any ushers in the house? Can you just raise your hand if you're one of the ushers? Please come. The issue of capital. Explain capital. How do you handle things when you don't have capital? That's what we call it in Bemba here. Capital. Mr. Simonza. Oh, Simonza.
Hello.
Capital. Kucharge and capital. Tamuli capital. You've got an idea, no money.
That's good. That's a very, very good question. So The question around getting started with a business, yes, might involve you getting resources to put inside the business. And that's what I hope you're calling capital. So it's a tricky one in the sense that we have this belief that you can borrow money from the bank to start a business. Very few businesses actually start off by borrowing money from a bank. And in Zambia, you're already signing the death of the business the moment you borrow money from a bank. And simply because interest is very high in Zambia. And that's when the business is most risky, so you shouldn't be borrowing money from, so even outside of Zambia, the principle is usually raise money by first off raising money from the 3 Fs. From 3 Fs, you move to angel investors towards venture capitalists. I'm coming. So the 3 Fs, it's angel investors, then venture capitalists. From venture capitalists, you move on to PE funds. That is if you're growing a multinational company. Like if you're building a multinational. That's the order of where you get your money from. So now let's go to the 3 Fs. The 3 Fs that you normally first get money from are friends, family, and fools.
Oh, man. Ow.
So,
If you didn't get that, rewind.
it's friends, family, and fools.
Oh.
Now, why are they called fools? It's people like me who are foolish enough to believe in you with no proof that you can actually do what you're trying to do. All right? So, now why does it become tricky? Why does it become tricky at that point? You have to make a decision. When you're borrowing that money, you're most likely not going to be able to afford to pay them back that money. Because one, you're taking a large risk. So which means ideally, these should become your first shareholders. Because they're taking the risk, and now, again, problem we have in Zambia, we hate shareholders. So, these are usually the people who've taken the risk of taking their hard-earned money to put it into your business. Now, can we get real? Example, Jeff Bezos, richest man in the world, right? First investors, his parents and his in-laws gave him the first money to start Amazon.com. If he's the richest man in the world, what are they?
Okay. Rich fools.
Microsoft, Bill Gates, first investor, his grandmother with the pension money that she had was the first money that she put into starting Microsoft. The return on that money, we can all do the calculations around that, right? Is Jeff Bezos the largest shareholder in Amazon? Yes, as an individual. How much as a percentage are his shares in the company? 16%, not 51, 16%. So, I'm sure you've heard this question before. Do you want to own 100% of something small or 16% of the largest company in the world?
And be the richest man in the world.
So that's where you get your capital from. Now, once you've taken other people's money, because this is what you've done, you've taken other people's money, you better be working the hardest in your life to make sure that money works. You're not chilling, you're not going on holidays, you are not what? You have other people's money, it better grow. You have a responsibility, a fiduciary responsibility to make sure the money you've taken grows.
Fiduciary? Translation?
You have a legal responsibility to make sure that that money grows. So I don't care whether this is your mother, I don't care whether this is your cousin, I don't care whether this is your best friend. You better be working hard. So when we say entrepreneurship is hard, you've taken on responsibility.
Word of the day for Pompey. Fiduciary.
Yeah. So that's where your capital comes from. Yes.
Okay. We have a question from the gentleman in blue. Please let us know your name and briefly, in one sentence, ask your question.
One sentence is like impossible.
Please, one sentence, boss. With
All
a
right.
question mark, that's all.
All right. My name is Joshua Grace, and thank you for this platform. My question is to Mr. Simon Munza. For me, I'm in the mining sector. Now, one of my challenges has been to get the investors to believe in taking partnership into venturing in the kind of business that I do. And the mines we've been trying over and over again to try and bring in some angel investors here and there. Some would promise they would come and others would fail. So over time, we have lost some couple of money and assets trying to get loans, like you said, but it hasn't been so fruitful. So I wanted to ask from you, as in what would be your advice towards this particular venture? Thanks.
So when you do a top-line assessment of a business, so bankers like your pastor here will go through what they call a due diligence of the type of business plan that you have. So a due diligence being just a point check that you can actually carry out the business. So three things, if I was to summarize them into three things. Is there market, meaning will we actually get money from whatever business you're trying to do? So if you're saying you're doing things in mining, who are your customers? Are there future customers you can get? Is there potential business? Is it promised business? Can we actually continue to make money once the money has been put in? So investors are different from loaners. So you've got to be very careful when you use those words. Loaners are people who say, I'll give you money. After 6 months, I'll get that money back with interest. An investor says, I'll ride the journey with you. Your company will grow. As your company grows, the value of the money that I put in will grow along with your company. So I'm taking the long ride with you. So I'm taking this risk with you. So normally what keeps investors away is, one, is are they convinced that the market assures them that their money will grow and the company will grow going forward? Two, do your numbers actually make sense that you're actually going to make a profit? So sometimes we show numbers and say, yes, we've done this, we've got a net profit, we're going to be making net profit from this. After that, we'll all be driving Benzes. Then we look through the numbers. Then we look through the numbers and we find out that you've missed certain things. Remember, usually the fact that your investors have money, usually they know something about business that you might not know yet. And if the numbers don't make sense to them, it scares them. So then the third thing is, and sometimes they just won't tell you that the numbers are actually scary. You claim you're going to make a profit, but this is missing from your numbers. Then the third thing is, do I actually believe? So when we say, at early stage, we'd say we don't invest in companies, we invest in people. And this is very critical. So a lot of people ask, we do technology, why did we partner? Why did we accept Ruth into our class? And this is important. I'm using this as an example to say, why do we believe in people? The key question then is, now that you've given me this business plan, now that you've given me these numbers, more critical than anything else, and we hate to hear this, do I actually believe that you can pull this off? And as an investor, if I don't believe that you have the skills to actually pull it off, so it's okay with you saying, I'm not perfect. If you know you're not perfect, the question then becomes, who else will you get? Partnerships, working with other people. Who else will you get to actually make sure you can pull this off? So I have this guy who's got these skills in this thing. I've got this guy who's got these other skills in this thing. My business partners, for example, there are things Lukong is amazing about that I know that I will not even try to become like that. Slumesi has got amazing skills that I will not even try to do. And I have my strength. And I have my weaknesses. If I was left to run Bongo Hive alone, Bongo Hive would change every 6 months because I always get new ideas. I'm that type of person. Like, no, let's expand. The next thing is the moon. Let's move Bongo Hive to the moon. Fortunately, I've got a business partner who's like, Smunza, chill, slow down. First, let's finish this first thing. Then let's consider your idea next. So then sometimes I'll forget about something. Then 1.5 years later, it's like, Smunza, remember that idea that you had? Yes, now it's time, let's do it. They're like, great. Then we start rolling out into the next thing. So it's having those people around you that also helps it. So the fourth thing that's also very important is governance. Is the money that is coming into your business going to be protected? I don't want to put money into your business. Next thing I know is that, no, he's chilling with girls, he's this, that, and he spent all the money that I gave him. How are we going to protect the money that we've put into your business? Am I sitting on your board? Who's signing for checks? Who's doing that? So now you have to think through all of these things and make sure your investor feels safe about this before they give you money. Yeah.
I have a question for Ruth, more so, because your story is slightly newer. What governance systems have you instilled into your business? I think it's important because people just think my business is just me, myself, and Jesus Christ. And we can do whatever we want without systems. Talk practically what you had to learn about systems that you had to employ in terms of governance, reporting, accounting.
First, I have investors in my business. So I own 51%. My husband is my husband at home. And at the end of the month, he's, why are our expenses high? Why did you make this decision? So he's like my husband at home, and then he's come on now when I'm sending reports at the end of the month. And then there's the investors. So I have that responsibility to do the reports. But I was very intentional, I still am. Like I know that I'm building a company. So even the way I don't get paid. So my Perfect Stitch buys my gas, and my husband provides for our household. Wow. And it's been, and the thing is that, Kamona, that's the name of my husband. He had to, he's always known that I'm quite ambitious, and I had to prove to him that, because there were times that when he gets paid and I'm like, we've run out of fabric, I'm just asking for a 2,000 kwacha. And then he would give me, and it's rent month, then we'd have to go hungry for a bit. But then you can't, like the way Simonza says, you can't take advantage that because he's my husband, so I can use the money anyhow. So I have to show him that, remember that 2,000 kwacha that you gave us that month, we made 5,000, now we're on 15,000. So even him, he knows that I'm not playing with his money. Even when I say I want to take a trip, I always go to Bongo Hive. I start announcing my trips like 4 or 5 months before. I'll be going here, I will be going there, then Simonza is like, okay, let's catch up. And you even know what the catch up means. It's what is the return for this trip. So like I even know that, guys, I know I'm trying to convince you that I want to go to Dubai, but when you hear Dubai, like in your mind, I'm going to play, but I'm telling you there's this furniture expo, they have a certain type of quality that they do, and I know that when I come back, like I have to show that I went for a trip and there's something different about the type of furniture that I'm making. And also, I have, you know, like at the beginning, my family was like, I'm playing, you left your degree to become a tailor. And then they saw that I started building a business. Then they thought, oh, you're making money, now you're doing things for the EU. Then they'll be like, oh, we're asking for contribution. And I'm like, my Perfect Stitch has money, Ruth has no money. So, no, but Shani, I'm like, no, I don't have money. So if you want us to send 500 kwacha contribution, let me ask my husband if he has money. If he doesn't have, we don't have. Because, like, my responsibility is that next month my rent has to be paid, my workers have to be paid, my machines have to run, I need to have resources. And that's like the important thing. And if I don't have that, I have no business. So and then there are times when I say, oh, okay, we have an extra 10,000, then I'll pay myself 3,000. So the business owes me a lot of money for my salaries. So I'll have like the 3,000 because I know that, okay, we have had months, so let me sort out this, my son has to do school fees. But then I'm building something because I know after a certain period, my Perfect Stitch will be able to pay for my kids. I'll be able to drive whatever car I want to drive. But then if I don't put in the foundations now, then I will not achieve what I want to do at the end of the day. And then I also have mentors. Vanarina is one of them. Simonza, even though he doesn't admit he is. So I always ask questions. I am not afraid to tell you that I'm failing. I always make it public that I am failing and I'm failing here and I don't know what to do and it's giving me a headache. So the mentors become my accountability people. So like, but Ruth, you had mentioned this, and you don't want to have 10 people at your back always telling you, you said you do this, and you're not doing it. And they also help you because they've been ahead. So they know the things that will come about, and then they have grace and truth. So they'll tell you, you can do this, but they'll tell you that you're messing up and you made a really bad decision, and they also help you up. Yeah.
Now I have a question for Ruth, but it's related to Simwanza. Simunzi, yeah, sorry, Simunzi. Simunza. Let me stick to the easier name, Muyangana. Wait, which one is harder? Simunza, Muyangana. Okay, Sims. How's that? Okay, so listening to Sims, you know, he's so intelligent. He's one of those people. This is a problem we face a lot, and I've seen other people face a lot, right? He's so intelligent, he's talking. I mean, even as you are speaking to him, I think he's the type of person, before you've even finished your business proposal, he's already calculated everything in his brain, right? No? Yes. He looks like the type who's looking through, who's judging everything, you know, which is a good thing, right? But some people get intimidated by people like that, right? Chizungu, what's the new word? Fiduciar? The Chizungu just passes. What's your fiduciar, your value person? I mean, how do you deal with the English, the fast, because people do think like that, because this is his area, right? So that's pretty good. You need people like that. That's definite. We all need people like that in our lives. But sometimes we can get intimidated with how much they know or how advanced they seem. How did you, I'm not saying you're behind, but being a businesswoman who you're talking the same English at least. At least I understand every word. How do you handle it? How do you get the guts, the courage, to be able to come back to a person who spoke a lot of words you didn't understand, maybe you didn't even understand, and still keep pushing forward with them?
Isimuza is not as mean, just to say. But I always have a notebook. If you want to grow, you have to be intentional about growth.
Yeah.
There is no two ways about it. Like, don't say that I want to be a billionaire and just sit. It doesn't work. So the very first thing is I read, and I read. I ask questions. I save up money, and I travel. So the Ruth that went to Bongo Hive 2017 is grown. Like I'm a grown-up Ruth then. So if Simunza says, what is your value proposition? You ask him, but he doesn't have the whole day to explain it to you. But you have a phone, and you have Google, and you have YouTube, and you can go and ask. And the good thing about Bongo Hive is that they don't know everything. So don't think that they do. But they know a lot of people who know a lot of things. So I'm like, Simonza, I do not understand what a financial statement is. Then he's like, hold on, I'll get back to you. Then he's like, oh, call up this guy. And then he will. Then I'll be like, Simonza, I'm not sure how this product is doing for this market. How do you think we should work it out? Then he'll be like, okay, quality control, product management, let's see, call this guy. And then I'll call. But then the thing is that a lot of us don't want to put in the work. So we don't want to make the phone call, we want to use our bundles for Mulomo, like Pastor Mbango was saying. But then we don't want to put in the work. We were talking about something this morning with Simonza, about how a lot of us say we don't find mentors, but then there's a free event like this, and you don't want to come, and there's a lot of people who are well-read in this room, and you don't want to approach them, and then tomorrow you're going to say there's no platforms in Zambia where to find a mentor. I just finished doing the Sherry Blair Foundation mentorship program, and he was saying that actually we're thinking that we need to stop doing it because very few people do it. And like, do you know who my mentor was? The MD of Fossil UK in Ireland. And I spent the whole year with him. And it's because they sent me the email, I looked at it, and I'm like, is there something that I can learn? And then I told them, these are the things that I want to learn, and everything. So even the conversations then, because you're putting, like now, I can go and have a CEO meeting with like the CEO of MTN or the CEO of something, because I know that I'm an expert in my field, and then there are things that I know that he also knows. And people give you respect if they know that you put in time to learn what you're doing, and you ask questions. So if you're going to be like, they intimidate me, I'm not going to, like, you're just killing yourself. But if you're going to ask questions, people value people who ask questions. Like, it's just, okay, guys, he said something about something. Like, just tell me, what is it? Yes. So, and I think that's how growth happens. Chuck, I was just saying about how he's a student. Like, go in a room and sit and just absorb and write everything down. Like, here's something, write it down. And then go Google it and read a book or something. Yeah.
Just a comment on the Sherry Blair Foundation mentorship program. So every 6 months, we give 10 mentorships only to women who've gone through a Bongo Hive program, and they get connected to a business leader in the United Kingdom. So if you don't know, across the world, that's true. So if you don't know, so for example, Ruth's mentor was the MD of Fossil UK. If you don't know the brand Fossil, it's a major brand. It's a major watch brand. And the MD was her mentor for a whole year. Like, they could get onto calls and talk about different stuff in business. Now, when I was complaining to Ruth, like, I'm thinking of stopping it, is because right now, we made a call just 2 months ago, looking for 10 women, only 3 applied. So sometimes I was like, when people complain about mentors, I'm like, I'm actually throwing mentors at people and nobody wants it. So why? People don't value free things and opportunities. Because those are the introductions you get to get investments of so on, because she directly knows the MD of Fossil. He directly knows her business. So he can talk to anybody when she needs help for her business.
Wow. That's huge. Before you leave, I'm sure we'll have some people who want to enter your mentorship program. Zimandola, we don't waste things like that, right? Right? For free. Have you seen? We are here. So we are coming. Don't close it, huh? Don't. On behalf of Zimandola. What?
Oh, so the next one will be next 6 months.
Oh, next 6 months. He's going to let us know. So you guys need to keep coming to church to pray. Then the pastor going to announce one of these days. So I don't know, man. Make yourself available. So do we have one? Okay, we do not have time for one last question. I'm sorry. But thank you very much. First of all, to Ruth Moto and Simunza Muyangana. Thank you so much. Oh, one more thing from Simunza.
All right, so I was putting together a presentation on building a business out of your passion. I'll see if I've got time to turn it from a presentation into a sort of like a document or mini book of sorts, which I will email to Pastor Mpangwe for him to share with you people. Yeah.
Awesome. Woo!